Creative learning is when we use the experimentation and the novelty and the originality that we see in the creative worlds, and we combine that with learning for a real purpose. And that's when we get that real magic, when there is new learning, new thinking happening that young people are generating and creating for themselves.
We have defined creativity in terms of 5 creative habits of the mind, we call them. And they are being inquisitive, being persistent, being imaginative, being disciplined, and being collaborative. Because it's knowing where to start a creative journey. It's about having the ideas that take you through that process, but also the discipline, the resilience, and the collaboration to make sure your ideas happen.
And what we know that research tells us about brain development when you are creative is that it doesn't matter in what form you do it in, it just matters that you go through the creative process and that you're thinking in different ways than you would. So rather than being linear and saying this is where we're going and this is the defined answer, it's more about, well, what is the bigger question that we're trying to answer and how are we going to get there?
The executive functions of your brain are like the operating system of your brain. If the operating system isn't working, no amount of software is going to work upon your laptop. And for a lot of young people, this is their experience in school. They arrive in school, what school does is load software, but a lot of them don't have operating systems which are able to function properly. And therefore they see other people being able to solve these problems, they can't, and they go into a spiral of decline around learning. And what we feel is that the creative activities that we develop with artists and we place in schools to work with young people directly impact on the executive functions. And our research shows clearly that young people are benefiting from our programs and doing better in school.
It's often also a way of engaging those disengaged learners who perhaps don't find science or mathematics exciting or interesting, but put it through the lens of an art form and suddenly it's a way to engage them better and to make the learning more purposeful. And that's really the exciting things that we want to do in this program of putting the arts and education together. The days of having one job for 40 years, for 40 hours a week and just doing the same for your whole life, those days are over. If we have an education system that still just focuses on the content that students learn, we will fail to prepare them adequately for this radically changing future.
It's much more about creativity, collaboration, critical thinking. The major thing for us now is that we explicitly teach these. So how do you teach creativity? How do you teach critical thinking? How do you go about that where content isn't your driver, but the skill development is?
And what we know from our research is that artists bring a completely different language into the classroom. So it's not that they're showing kids technical techniques in painting or poetry writing. It's they talk differently, and this language actually has a physiological impact on the brains of young people, make it connect better and enable them to learn more deeply.
It's often said that if we keep on doing the same things, we'll keep on getting the same outcomes. And there's actually really compelling research now from right across the world on how the arts can have significant benefits socially, emotionally, health-wise, and of course academically across a range of subject areas.
But what if we took the idea of teaching creativity and taught teachers how to teach that in any discipline? So it's not siloed, it's not sitting there within art, within drama, within music, within media, but what does creativity look like in maths? What does creativity look like in science? What about in science and art when you bring those two disciplines together? That's the challenge, and with Form's help, we think we can do it.
One of the things that's really important to understand is people's creativity isn't fixed. And if people go, I'm not imaginative, that's not true. They are currently not imaginative in specific circumstances, but you'd nearly always find that that person's being really imaginative in a different context, just not applying it.
And that's what creative learning can give them, the skills of thinking for themselves, of being independent self-starters, original thinkers, and thinking towards a purpose.